Hello there, algebra students. Welcome to Chapter 8, Section 8. This is called factoring by grouping, and this is a strategy to use if you have four terms that you need to factor this particular polynomial in this style. So I'm going to just jump into it. We've briefly seen something like this earlier in the chapter, but we need to get into it into a little more detail here than we saw earlier. So the problem is that we should always do first every time we factor is look for GCF. Now this particular question, I don't think there is a GCF here. Let's see, we got 3, 12, 2, 8. There's not a number that goes into all of those. So we don't have a common factor we can take out. All right, so here's the trick. Here's the new part for you. Then since we don't have a factor we can take out, what I'm going to do, I'm going to group into binomials. Group binomials. And here's what it looks like. I'll do it on the next line just for the sake of the notes. I'm going to put the first two terms, 3n to the third minus 12n squared. I'm going to put that in parentheses. Bring this sign down here. That sign has to stay the same. If it's subtraction, you can change it to addition. And I'm going to group the second two terms. Now this might look a little bit familiar to you at this point. Now what I'm going to do here is look for GCF in the binomials. Now, the first binomial, 3n to the third, that has a common factor of 3n squared. So I'm going to factor it out here, 3n squared. So this binomial becomes, actually, don't draw that arrow I just drew. Let me erase that. The common factor is 3 because I want you to do this. I want you to divide out 3n squared here. So you can see that that 3n squared goes out front. 3 divided by 3 is 1. N cubed divided by n squared is just n. So you have n minus 12 divided by 3 is 4. N squared divided by n squared is just 1. So it's 3n squared times n minus 4. Bring down this plus sign. Here you have a common factor of 2. So I want to divide that out. So the 2 goes here. 2 divided by 2 is 1n. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And that's not a 4, that's an 8. I can't write. Let's try that again. That should be 4. All right. Now, at this point, you might remember we've seen this really earlier when we started factoring some of those special products, I believe. We're going to notice that there's a GCF, a binomial GCF, and it is n minus 4. So I'm going to divide out of this whole thing. I'm going to divide n minus 4. And as I do that, here's what happens. We have this n minus 4 cancels out. And remember, the greatest common factor goes up front, just like it did up here, just like that 3n squared went there. It's just n minus 4 now. It also canceled out that one. Remember how that works? And then we're left over with 3n squared plus 2. n minus 4 times 3n squared plus 2. And that's it. Neither of those binomials will factor. You want to check to make sure they don't, but that's the answer. If we multiplied that all back, we could have that. We could produce that that particular polynomial for us. All right, let's do another example here. I went ahead and copied it down for you to save a minute in the video. You can get it down, but I'm going to just keep talking here. The first thing we want to do, hit pause if you have to get it down. But you want to see if there is a GCF. And I believe there is in this one. Yes, there is. Because there is a 4. Well, you should notice right away that each term has a q. And the lowest exponent is q. And 4 is also divisible by each term. So we have 4q. So the first thing we have to do is get that 4q out. All right, so if I divide out 4q, 4 divided by 4 is 1. Q to the fourth divided by q, that'd be q to the third, minus 8 divided by 4 is 2. Q to the third divided by q, that's q squared. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Q squared divided by q is q. 24 divided by 4 is 12. Q divided by q is 1, so that's just 12. So let's make sure I have that right. Q to the third minus 2q squared plus 3q minus That's not 12. Doggone it. Somebody thought they were getting candy, but I found it because I double checked my work. 24 divided by 4 is not 12, it's 6. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to see if in this binomial pair we can factor. So I'm going to change my color here. I should have actually, you know what I should have done? I should have done a bracket here. Because and I'll change this to red just to show you, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this binomial and this binomial like that. Right, and I want to factor that. Now, it is important that we talked about in class, you cannot lose track of that factor, that 4q. Okay, now what I'm going to do is factor out the common factor here is q squared. All right, I'm going to factor out q squared, so he goes there. Just ignore that 4q, just don't forget about him, but just ignore him for now. We're going to factor out q squared. So q to the third divided by q squared, that's q. 2q squared divided by q squared, that would just be 2. Bring down that plus sign. And then here we got a common factor of, it looks like 3. Divide out the 3 divided by 3. So 3, common factor goes there. You got q minus 6 divided by 3 is 2. All right, so again, just leave 4q there. Don't forget about it. Okay, times. Now you have this common factor of q minus 2 that comes out. So that goes in the front, q minus 2. And then it cancels out there. And then you got q squared plus 3 remaining. So that is the other factor, q squared plus 3. There it is. Voila. All right, so always look for a common factor first. Then if you have 4 terms, get the binomial factors, look for common factors there, factor it out, and then take that polynomial right there, divide that out, that common factor of q minus 2, and you have it. Let's try one. Why don't you try one on your own here? This is a bit of a trickier one. Why don't you go ahead and hit pause and do this one as far as you can, and then come back and see what you can do, and I'll talk you through it. Okay, if you're back, hopefully you've at least given this some effort. Let's look for a common factor. We do have a common factor of 3x. All right, so if we divide out 3x, this is what you should have had, 2x to the third plus x squared minus 8x minus 4. Okay, just let's leave that 3x, that factor is out of there. Now we're going to look at these binomials like this. Actually, what we want to do is picture this as plus negative. There, okay, and then look at those two binomials. Oops, sorry about that. So I'm going to do a bracket here. So here there's a common factor of x squared. So get that x squared out of there. And then what you have left here is 2x plus 1. Now that's plus. Now here, I want 2x plus 1 here. So I'm going to factor out actually a negative 4. Because 4 goes into both of them. But the reason I'm taking out negative 4 is watch. Negative divided by negative makes that positive 2x. Negative divided by negative makes that plus 1. Now I have a matching binomial factor right here and here. So now I can take that out. Factor out that 2x plus 1. Okay, again, we can't not forget the 3x. Okay. Now we're going to take out the common factor of 2x plus 1, came here. And you're left with x squared plus negative 4, which is the same thing as x squared minus 4. Now probably if you did this without on your own first, you probably stopped here. And you're right so far, but it's actually not the complete answer. The complete answer, there's another factor right here, because this is a special product. This is a difference of squares. And you have to check that. When you have 2 terms, you have to see if it's a difference of squares, which is a special product we learned about in the last section. X minus 2 times x plus 2. And that is the answer, and it has to be factored all the way down to that to be 100% complete. So there it is. That's your lesson in 8.8. I went pretty fast, but most of the stuff we've seen before. Bring bring your questions to class when I see you next, and we will get it done from there.